Welcome back to the channel, everyone. Davey Deathray here. Little late night with the Davey before dark. At least if you are out here in the States, it's before dark. For our lovely, lovely subscribers, channel members, and maybe random passersby on the other side of the pond, it is dark. I guess depending on how far do you cross the pond and then cross another smaller pond to go even further east, then it's even later for you. So thank you so much for joining me. This is a little bit of a bonus kind of thing because, you know, I've got to get through this Terrifier book. I said it was just going to be for channel members. I was going to give you guys a taste. Then we got a little love on the super chats, and I was like, well, as long as that love is there, I'll keep on doing it for everyone. Then the love dwindled out, and that's okay. Super chats are not a requirement. Really, all that I ask is that you hit the like button, subscribe, especially if you're digging what we do here. Maybe think about hyping one of these streams or one of the videos if you really dig it, and, you know, sharing it with somebody who you think would enjoy this kind of content. However, super chats are pretty fun. I spend a little time highlighting it, giving you some extra love, all that kind of good stuff. And yeah, not required, but a lot of fun. And here we are with a little bonus read along. Now, we are reading the Terrifier 3 novelization by Tim Waggoner, and it's been pretty accurate. There's one thing in here so far where I'm like, was that in the movie? Because guys, I've only seen the movie once. I caught it in theaters last year. I snuck in a couple Mike's Hard lemonades. I was still drinking then. And, you know, the way that I was drinking was, well, I don't want to buy a beer at the theater. I'll spend like half that money and bring in a 24-ounce Mike's Hard lemonade, and I'll get a buzz for, you know, half the price, quarter of the price probably. So I've only seen it that one time, and I think this has been pretty accurate, although maybe we got a little Art the Clown backstory information that I don't know if it was in the film. However, we are on chapter 9. Chapter 8 concluded with the demolition men being killed by Art and Victoria. Victoria, yes, they put it in the book. She reached her climax with her piece of glass. Good for her. Yeah, I don't know. Sounds painful. Some people like pain. I don't think I'm one of those people. But yes, the book has been very interesting. It seems like this is the most graphic it's gotten so far. Of course, that one scene is one of the most graphic, I think, in the entire movie, or at least for me, one of the more shocking. And yeah, Sienna is getting settled back in with her aunt and uncle and cousin. And it seems like the rubber is about to meet the road here. So I'm going to jump in and say what's up to everybody hanging out. Thank you so much for joining me in the middle of the day. I know a lot of you might be working if you're out here stateside. And I wanted to put this at a time where we could sneak in these 2 chapters, because I know there's some other streams going on this afternoon. Our good pal, Darren, who a lot of us know from the Slaughtered Lamb movie podcast, he's got a channel, He's got a channel named Daniel. He's got a channel called Only Sands, and he's going to be going live, I think, in about an hour and 15 minutes. Although there's a lot of like different time zones floating around in my head, so I could be wrong. So I know a lot of us really, really enjoy that kind of content. And I didn't want anybody to have to make that very inconsequential, but relatively important to some, Sophie's Choice. So I'm going to say what's up to everybody hanging out here in the chat, and then we'll get to reading. By the way, guys, this is episode 76 of Late Night with the Davey. This is a Before Dark edition, but wow, 76 episodes. And tonight we're having my buddy Lido Velasco on for a true Late Night with the Davey episode. We're going to be talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street, and that's going to be episode 77. So, you know, the 75th mark just kind of came and went, and I guess I got to start looking ahead and thinking about what that 100th episode is going to be, and who am I going to bring on? Are we going to have a, you know, cavalcade of guests? I guess we'll see. We've got Chester Franklin Jr. hanging out. How are you doing, Chester? We got Lamontre Gillard. What's up, Lamontre? We got Tia Nina jumping in with a $5 just to be sweet. Tia is so sweet that even on yesterday's members only stream, she dropped a super chat, which is extremely giving and very kind. And Tia says, won't be able to make the live. Have fun, y'all. Well, Tia, you can always catch up. Of course, you know that. I don't have to tell you. Thank you so much for the 5. Really do appreciate it and appreciate your membership and all of your support. Tia reached out to me with a really sweet DM just about how she's really enjoying the creativity. I'm guessing maybe she's talking about the 12 Sleighs of Christmas posts that I've been making. So guys, if you're not seeing those posts, make sure you have the notification bell hit. All of these posts that I'm doing from, I think it was the 14th through Christmas Day, they're all pretty interactive. So not all of them are going to be like a poll. Yesterday's was a poll of who would make the worst, which slasher villain would make the worst mall Santa. Of course, we didn't include art because we've already seen how that goes. So not all of them are polls like that, but they're all interactive. So I don't know if that's what she's talking about, but the one that I posted earlier this morning is pretty fun. So check it out and jump into the comments and let me know what you've got for mixing a Christmas classic with one of our favorite horror movies. Which two would you mash together? Tell me all about it. I sometimes have a difficult time to tell the difference as well. I look in the mirror and I do that. I wave to myself and I'm just like, dude, are you even like, what are you? What are you? Yeah, I'm trying to learn how to be nicer to myself. It's true. Thank you so much for being a channel member, Em. I really do appreciate it. And guys, I don't need to say it again. You know how I feel about Em and her channel. I think she's a great person and a wonderful content creator. If you don't subscribe to Horror, you'd be doing yourself a favor to go on over there and give her some love. We've got Kyle from The Flet from Another World, another one of our great channel members. Thank you so much for jumping on in, Kyle. And guys, Kyle just recently hit 1,000 subscribers. So let's see some love for Kyle in the chat. M wants to become Art's mother. I mean, it's sweet that you've got a nurturing side. I know you're not the biggest fan of, itty bitty children, but it seems like you wouldn't be against the idea of, I don't know, adopting a grown person. There's probably websites or classified ads for that kind of work. Yes, she is Victoria, as I say there. It's true. I would certainly not be doing the whole shard of glass adult time over art. And I think that, from reading the book, I don't even know if it's because of art. I think it's because of what Art's doing. That's like that's what like gets her going. It's very, I don't know. I don't think Art is human, so I don't really blame Art for the things he does. But Victoria at some point was human. I don't think she is anymore, but that's a good point. It is I guess it is a backhanded compliment. You think I'm adorable? That is so sweet. Oh, that made my day. I'm on the left. Yeah. Oh my goodness. Okay, I think we've said hello to, oh no, we've got Gina, aka my chunky Geordie. Guys, if you don't know why I sing that, it's because there is a 311 song called My Stony Baby. I think it's on their second album, Grassroots. Yeah, I'm a closeted early days 311 fan. I get down with anything from music through Transistor. Sound System has some good songs. They mentioned NoFX on the song Sound System, which is on the record Sound System. Oh no, they mentioned NoFX on Come Original. My bad. What kind of 311 fan am I? Evil 311 fan? I guess I am an evil 311 fan. But really the first 4 albums, music through Transistor, that's the pocket of 311 that I really enjoy. Let's see here. We got Gene Whitcomb. How are you doing, Gene? Thank you so much for jumping on in. And Gina, thank you so much for being a channel member for so long. Gina's been a channel member for like 16 months or something. I think is about as long as you can be a channel member of the Davey Deathray channel. We got Eli Cortez in the house, one of our great Death Squad mods and channel members as well. How are you doing, Eli? Thank you for sharing M's channel. Of course. I believe everyone in here is subscribed to M and Kyle, but hey, doesn't hurt to put it out there. We got a different kind of community here where we don't get weird about links being shared in the chat, as long as it's not weird shit being shared in the chat. But if somebody does have a link where M can find a grown adult male mime clown that needs a mommy, I guess you could share that link in the chat for M. M would probably appreciate it. What's happening, Gory Tiger? How are you doing? All right, we got Hot Flesh 66. I think this is Paul, but YouTube doesn't want me to see the name that you want to use, Paul. They're just going to use your handle. Paul, I hope this is your name, Paul. Paul. Sorry, Davey, Silent Night remake was just okay. Frailty with Matthew McConaughey was better. Congrats on the channel / the sober journey. Yeah, I think Frailty with Matthew, I get what you're saying. There's a little bit of that, there's some sort of kind of connective idea there. They're two totally different movies though, right? You know, like I think Silent Night, Deadly Night is definitely just a more kind of tongue-in-cheek fun, you know, sort of movie where it seems, you know, Frailty gives me, seems much more serious in what it's, in the way it's handling the topic that it's handling. So I don't doubt that, or, you know, I don't blame you for saying that Frailty is better. I definitely, but I don't, you know, I would say Frailty is more of like less of a slasher. So sometimes in my mind, I just put some certain movies in different categories. And of course you can still say, well, I enjoyed this more than that, even though I think that's technically a better movie. You know what I mean? Like I love Halloween so much. I think The Thing is technically a better movie by John Carpenter than Halloween. But if you had to ask me to pick one, I might pick Halloween because I just love Michael Myers and that world so much. But I do think The Thing is a better movie. Does that make any sense? I know sometimes I can be very confusing with the way I feel and talk about art. Not the clown, just the actual concept. But yeah, I've seen some people out there that are they're feeling like pretty lukewarm and just okay about it. You know, that's the really interesting thing about, you know, again, art and the way that we perceive it is that everyone's going to take away a little bit something different, right? And sometimes we go in with certain expectations. So there is that burden, you know, people call it the burden of expectation, or, you know, maybe it just doesn't hit the way that you wanted it to hit. That's what happened with me in like Weapons. You know, I thought Weapons was going to be a lot better than it ended up being for me, even though I really, really enjoyed the first 2/3 of the film. It's just really the last third that kind of shook it from a top spot for me. Black Phone 2, really wanted to love it. Thought the trailer looked great. Thought the concept was really cool. The movie was way too long and kind of boring in a lot of spots for me. Some people really loved it. But yeah, the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake, I'm going to go check it out in the theater again. I saw it in the theater once. We watched it on our Discord. We got a hold of a German copy and watched it over there. But I want to see it in the cinema again. And to me, it was just really fun. And I like Pammy, Ruby Modine's character. I love her kind of crazy. I really love Rowan Campbell's rugged, you know, he's got this rugged sadness about him that I find very alluring. I really, really dig him as a performer. I think he's got a really interesting look. And I'm finding that the older I get, that's what I really love, Paul, is actors that have interesting looks. And sometimes that means that they're handsome or beautiful or gorgeous or whatever. But there's something just a little bit different about the way they look. Ruby Modine is different looking. Some people might call her a five-head. I don't care. I think she's a very beautiful girl next door. I like her nose. She's got an interesting nose as well. Julia Garner, like she doesn't, you know, it's not that she isn't beautiful. I mean, I think she is, but she doesn't have that, like those classically like hot actress or like, you know what I mean? Like there are those features that people consider like hot. I find that I appreciate the looks of people that don't necessarily fall in that category. I know that's way off topic, but I'm sure it had something to do with my enjoyment of Silent Night, Deadly Night remake, which I think is very Very much better than the original. Yeah, guys, get M that link. She needs it. It'd be like that episode in the IT crowd where Moss accidentally gets involved with the German cannibal. Thank you so much for the $20 super sticker, Paul. Holy cow. I need to jump on over to... Oh my goodness. I can't see it over on StreamYard, so I have to jump on over to YouTube. And it's this cute little pear-shaped aquamarine, greenish turquoise. I don't want to call him a blob because he is being very athletic, and I don't think he's running, but he's skidding very, very well and pumping his fists, and it says goal. I like that. Thank you so much, Paul. Really do appreciate you, man. $20 super sticker is incredibly generous. So thank you so much. You have made the stream more than worth it just with your contribution. And of course, from what Tia dropped here as well. That is very, very much appreciated. Thank you so very much. All right, let's see here. I just want to say what's up to everybody, and then we're going to get going here. We got King Matthew III dipping in and dipping out. Hope you have a good day, King Matthew. I did like Gladys until we just spent way too much time with her for her to be scary or interesting to me, and it just became silly, unfortunately. Yeah. Yeah, she was really scary in the first couple thirds, first 2/3 of the movie when you just saw flashes of her. Yeah, I don't know. Also, it's the second movie in a row where Zach Kreger has built a really cool idea, and then it just comes down to old hag trope. It's just old hag, like literally. Barbarian and Weapons did the same thing, and I'm not against witches being in movies. Like, I think it can work. It just seems like there's a little bit of a rug pull in both of his films so far. So, and I'm not very excited about what I'm hearing, regarding his Resident Evil movie. Ugh. I'm guessing there's going to be a old hag in there. I missed the ending chat with everyone, but it was pretty good. Billy was hotter though. Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, I mean, Billy is a handsome man in the original, but Rowan Campbell does have that ruggedness about him. What's happening, Jake? How are you doing? We got Killjoy Jake in the house, guys. If you don't already subscribe to him, what the heck are you doing? How did you find your way over here? And yeah, I should get going on the reading because I'm just blah, blah, blahing with you guys. And we can blah, blah, blah a little bit after a couple chapters. And admittedly, guys, when this music, it just puts me, it's like when I speak in a Southern accent, I just turn into a different person. Oh my God, you're just so sweet. I love what you're doing with your hair. This music just puts me in that calm space. So, I don't know about that, but thank you very much. Thank you very much, Stephanie. I appreciate it. Yeah, the Silent Night, Deadly Night remake, Bo. It is a lot of fun. At least I had a lot of fun, but I don't want to drum it up too much. I would hate to have somebody be like, man, I thought it was going to be really good because that Davey Deathray guy said it was so great. You got to temper expectations anytime you go into a film, right? I will say this, and I'm not going to describe the scene, but there's a really fun scene in there, and Bloody Disgusting spoiled it on their homepage, and I checked their page for news, and in the headline it's spoiled. So it's not my fault for clicking the article or anything like that. I guess they felt like people weren't sold on their amazing looking remake already, and they had to give away a plot point that would have put such a shit-eating grin on my face as a surprise in the theater, but I knew it was coming, and it was still a cool scene, but not as cool as it would have been. Yeah. I can also see him as a Southern gay guy who has a chihuahua after that X. That is, I'm doing an imitation of a guy that called me at the pizza shop once. I mean, he didn't call me at the pizza shop. He called the pizza shop. I answered the phone. And he was like, oh, I'd like to order some wine with my pizza. And I was like, okay, what kind of wine do you want? And he's like, I don't know, like a Pinot. And I was like, Pinot Grigio or Pinot Noir? Like, there's two different kinds of Pinots. And then I'm thinking to myself, did you just want to say Pinot to another man? Was it an elaborate ploy just to say Pinot to me because it sounds close to something else? I never got too emo, guys. I have too much of a Jew-fro to be emo. I would have to straighten my hair to have the bangs. But I do love music that is classified as emo. Saves the Day is one of my favorite bands. So there you go. How are you doing, John Kramer Rules? Okay, guys, let's go ahead and get into this book. I'm going to have a sip of coffee and then a sip of water. Got to keep it balanced. Okay. So, like I said, as we last left, Victoria just jerked it with the glass. They ripped apart the two demolition guys. And previous to that, Sienna was settling in with her family, getting reacquainted with Gabby, all that kind of good stuff. So here we go. I'm going to turn the music down just a touch. There we are. Okay, guys. Chapter 9 of Terrifier 3, the novelization by Tim Waggoner. A food express driver delivery, already off to a good start. A food express driver delivered their order from the Purple Panda, and Jess set out plates and napkins for the four of them on the dining table. They'd all gotten chopsticks with their order, but Jess gave everyone forks too. Just in case, she said. Sienna and Gabby sat on one side of the table, Jess and Greg on the other, leaving an empty place at both ends. The dining room was adjacent to the living room with no wall between. Sienna liked this because it meant they could see the Christmas tree while they ate. They served themselves from open cardboard containers, and the adults sampled a bit of everything while Gabby took only an egg roll and sweet and sour chicken. The Purple Panda had opened in Miles County sometime when Sienna had been at Happy Valley, so this was the first time she'd tasted their food. She thought it was absolutely delicious, but part of that might be because she hadn't had Chinese food for years, and all the tastes seemed brand new to her. She remembered another piece of advice Dr. Catry had given her during their last session. The adjustment to life outside the center can be difficult after a lengthy stay, but try to think of it as an adventure. You're not returning to your old life so much as discovering how the new life fits into the world. Maybe eating from a new restaurant wasn't much of an adventure, but she thought it was a decent start. Gabs, stop staring at Sienna, Greg said. It's rude. Sienna's full attention had been on the kung pao shrimp she'd been eating, and she hadn't realized Gabby had been looking at her. I like her scars, Gabby said. Jess's face reddened with embarrassment. Gabby! Sienna laughed. It's okay. The worst of her scars were on her arms, back, and legs, but her clothing currently concealed those. The few scars she had on her face were minor by comparison, and she didn't feel self-conscious about them. Her scars were indications she had survived something terrible, and that made them symbols of strength. That made them beautiful. No, it's not, Jess said. She gave Gabby a stern look. That is very inappropriate. What? Gabby said. I just think they're cool. Greg smiled. Show Sienna your new scar. Abby displayed a wicked-looking scar on her elbow. Ouch, Sienna said. How'd you get that? Gabby grinned. Fell off my bike during summer break. And landed on a broken bottle, Jess added. 7 stitches, Greg said. Yikes, Sienna said. There was so much blood. Gabby sounded almost proud. And like this piece of fat oozing out. All right, Jess said. Let's change the subject, please. I don't want to think about blood and fat while we're eating. Greg took a big bite of his Chinese-style barbecue spare ribs, and red sauce dripped onto his plate. You're disgusting, Jess said to her husband. Greg waggled his eyebrows at the girls, and they both laughed. So, do you guys still open presents on Christmas Eve? Sienna asked. Gabby nodded. As soon as the clock strikes midnight. Stupid tradition, Greg muttered. Hey, Jess said, sounding genuinely offended. That was the way I was raised. Regardless, Greg said, Christmas isn't the same around here since somebody stopped believing in Santa. He gave Gabby a wink. Sienna looked at Gabby. When did this happen? Like when I was 8. Oh, stop, Jess said. You were older than that. No, Gabby said. I just went along with it so you and Daddy didn't feel bad. I've been finding presents stashed around the house for years. Yeah, that's because you're a little snoop, Jess said. I am not, Gabby protested. What were you doing in my dresser then? Jess demanded. And my bedroom closet, Greg added. Gabs! Sienna knew her cousin was inquisitive, to put it kindly, but she hadn't known the girl had started spying on her own parents. Gabby looked at her. What? They should pick better hiding spots. It was under the floorboard, Greg said. Can you pass the rice? The voice startled Sienna, but no one else seemed to have heard it. She didn't look in the direction of the voice, afraid to see someone was there and equally afraid to see no one was. She's also notorious for opening presents and then rewrapping them, Jess said. Like we can't tell, Greg added, giving Gabby a teasing smile. That I don't do anymore, Gabby said. The voice came again, its tone more insistent this time. Pass the rice, please. Don't look, Sienna thought. Do not look. She was afraid, but tried to keep her voice normal as she spoke. Yeah, you better not, because I'll kick your little butt if I catch you. Sienna! Whoever it was... Oh, sorry, that's supposed to be read like, Sienna! Whoever it was sat at the end of the table on Sienna's left. She didn't want to look, but this time she couldn't stop herself. She turned her head and saw her dead friend Brooke sitting in one of the previously empty chairs. She wore her pirate outfit, the one she'd had on that night. She looked the way she had when Art had finished mutilating her. Chest cavity open, heart missing, face caved in, leaving only a vast dark emptiness that seemed to go on forever. And there was blood, of course, on her clothes, her skin, her hair, so much that it looked like her entire body had been dipped in a barrel of the red stuff. Sienna was so stunned by this apparition that for a moment, all she could do was stare. Hello, Sienna. If you don't pass the rice, I'm not gonna leave. Sienna, everything all right? Jess asked. Yeah. No amount of medicine is gonna make me go away. Brooke turned her head as if glancing at Greg with her one eye remaining. Then she turned back to Sienna. He's kind of cute. I refuse to acknowledge this as real. Sienna pushed her plate aside and put her head down on the table so she couldn't see Brooke. That did not silence her friend, though. I'm dead because of you, Sienna. You led us to him. You and that little shithead brother of yours. I didn't, Sienna said, her voice barely above a whisper. You killed me, just like you killed your mother. The least you can do is pass the goddamn rice. Despite her judgment, Sienna raised her head slightly so she could see Brooke. A thick mixture of blood, pus, and rot began oozing from the hole where her face had been. It splattered onto the table, and drops flew off and landed in the food cartons. A particularly large piece of glop landed in Sienna's kung pao shrimp. Brooke shrieked like a banshee, Pass the rice! Pass the rice! Pass the rice! Excuse me. Sienna jumped out of her seat and bolted from the table, Brooke still screaming for her to pass the rice. Sienna grabbed a couple of pills from her room, then rushed into the upstairs bathroom, closed the door, and quickly downed the meds with sink water. She began hyperventilating and splashed water on her face until she started to get her breathing back under control. She turned off the water, gripped the edge of the sink, and looked at herself in the mirror. She didn't like the fear she saw in her reflection's eyes. She'd left Happy Valley only a few hours ago, and she was already having vivid hallucinations. How the hell was she going to make it on the outside if she couldn't even have one normal, non-fucked up day? Dr. Catry had referred several local therapists to her, but she hadn't had time to make arrangements to see any of them yet. Dr. Catry said that she was welcome to call her any time of the day or night if she was struggling and needed someone to talk to, especially for the first few days after moving back to Miles County. Her phone was in her pocket and she was tempted to reach for it, but she resisted. She could do this. Dr. Catry said she'd likely have several incidents after leaving the center, but that was what her medication was for. After a time, a few weeks, perhaps as long as a couple of months, the hallucinations will come less frequently until eventually they'll stop coming altogether. You'll just need to tough it out until then. But remember, you don't have to do it alone. You have your family and your friends, and you have your doctors. We're all resources for you, Sienna. Use us. It was good advice. Sienna had been fiercely independent her entire life, and she knew she had a tendency to try and solve problems on her own. Daddy used to say that the first complete sentence she spoke was, I do it myself. Dr. Catry had been wrong about one thing, though. Sienna no longer had any friends. Art had killed them all 5 years ago. I'm dead because of you, Sienna. You led us to him. Brooke's grotesque apparition may have just been her subconscious talking to her, but she'd articulated one of Sienna's greatest fears, that anyone who got close to her would die. That's why she hadn't made any new friends since that night. And as for romance, forget it. Even if she'd met someone over the last 5 years, what guy or girl would want to have anything to do with her? She was extremely damaged goods, and for most of that time, she thought she was a deadly jinx as well. Dr. Catry had helped her come to accept that she wasn't responsible for things Art had done, and she didn't have a curse of some sort hanging over her. That was why she'd been able to move back in with Greg, Jess, and Gabby. If she believed she was a threat to them, she never would have come here. "It's gonna be okay," she told her reflection. "We're gonna be okay." Her reflection didn't respond, but Sienna thought she detected more than a little doubt in its eyes. Veda Catry sat in her office and stared at the blinking cursor on her computer screen. She needed to write her final report on Sienna Shaw, but she was having trouble getting started. She'd been a practicing psychiatrist for over 20 years and could typically write patients' reports in her sleep. But Sienna wasn't a typical patient. Hell, the young woman wasn't a typical anything. Veda was a woman of Indian descent in her late 40s. She was 4'11". People had underestimated her because of her height her entire life, especially once she got to med school. She thought most people did it unconsciously, but they tended to dismiss her opinions and overlook her for leadership roles. The older male docs were the worst. But then they tended to treat all the med students and residents like crap. She often wondered if having to deal with people's perceptions of her throughout her life was what eventually attracted her to the field of psychiatry. It was a field of the mind, and your appearance mattered less than your knowledge and therapeutic instincts. Patients often looked surprised upon first meeting her. Not Sienna, though. Veda's height made no difference to her whatsoever. Of course, Sienna had more than enough of her own problems to deal with to be concerned with how short her therapist was. Early on in their therapeutic relationship, Veda had contemplated writing a book about Sienna's case. Nothing trashy or exploitative like the spat of true crime articles and books that came out after the second Miles County massacre. Rather, something that would illuminate the innate fragility and resilience of the human psyche. But one day, she caught one of the cafeteria staff using her phone to secretly record a video of Sienna eating lunch. Veda called security, and the staff member was escorted from the cafeteria. Upon questioning, the woman admitted she'd planned to sell the video to Kill Them All, a site devoted to grisly murders on the dark web. After this incident, Veda decided against writing about Sienna. The young woman had enough to deal with without her therapist attempting to profit off her like so many others had, even if that profit would primarily result in an enhanced professional reputation for Veda rather than financial gain. Exploitation was exploitation, and Veda was ashamed she'd even considered it. Since then, she'd fought to protect Sienna's privacy with the ferocity of a pit bull, fending off media requests for interviews with Sienna and turning away reporters and, quote, fans posing as reporters who wished to see her in person. Veda had worked hard over the last few weeks to keep anyone outside Happy Valley from learning about Sienna's release. She didn't want Sienna to be waylaid by reporters the instant she set foot outside the facility, or worse, find them waiting for her at her aunt and uncle's home. Veda had been relieved when Sienna and her uncle departed without incident, and she'd been even more relieved when Sienna's uncle texted her an hour later to let her know they'd arrived home safely and with no one waiting for them. Veda would continue to turn away reporters who tried to get her to comment on the state of Sienna's mental health, but now that Sienna was out in the world again, Veda could do little more to protect her. She knew she failed to maintain strict professional detachment from Sienna and had allowed herself to become too personally involved, but she didn't regret the lengths to which she'd gone to help Sienna. A good therapist sometimes has to bend the rules a little in order to help a patient, sometimes more than a little. "I wish you luck out there, girl," she thought. "You deserve some after everything you've been through." Veda sighed, placed her fingers on the keyboard, and started typing. Sienna Shaw was 19 years old when she first came into my care, and I frankly didn't know what to make of her. That she'd survive a severe attack by a psychotic killer clown as the Miles... sorry, guys. That she'd survive a severe attack by a psychotic killer known as the Miles County Clown was a matter of record. There were police reports and medical records that supported this. The same killer had also attacked her brother, and he survived as well. Her mother and two closest friends were attacked by this killer too, all being horribly mutilated in the process, and they did not survive. And all of this occurred 1 year after her father's tragic suicide. This young woman suffered from massive trauma, and the fact that she was as functional as she was is a testament to her resilience and strength of will, both of which are considerable. After our first few sessions, it became clear to me that she'd intertwined the actual events of her trauma with a significant amount of fantastical delusion, likely as a way of helping her cope with everything that had happened. She imagined the Miles County Clown as being a literal avatar or servant of some ill-defined evil force, an inhuman creature with supernatural abilities that was somehow tied to her father's death, although she didn't know how. Neither do we. She also imagined herself as a champion chose by a divine power, also ill-defined, to battle and defeat the evil the Miles County Clown represented. She claimed to have accomplished this feat by beheading the killer with a magic sword. Her brother Jonathan corroborated these delusional aspects of the events, no doubt heavily influenced by the older sister that he looked up to. Reports shared with me by the therapist Jonathan saw indicate his treatment was successful. He no longer believes that the Miles County Clown was anything more than a sadistic but very human serial killer. As to whether Sienna actually killed her assailant, a body was never recovered, and 2 police officers who'd come to investigate the incident were killed, seeming to indicate that the Miles County Clown was very much alive after Sienna and Jonathan were taken to the hospital for treatment. Where the killer had been for the last 5 years, no one knows. There had been no sign of him since, which has made it understandably difficult for Sienna to feel any sense of closure regarding the experience. Sienna's treatment was a struggle for both of us from the beginning. During all the years I worked with her, she never wavered from her version of the events. And while she did eventually stop referencing the paranormal aspects of her experience, I suspect she did so only to placate me. We made a kind of truce, she and I. I stopped trying to convince her to reject her delusions, and she worked on learning to manage the hallucinations brought on by the physical and emotional trauma she experienced, as well as the intense survivor guilt she felt afterward. She made great strides towards this goal, to the extent that I came to believe she was ready for the next step, reintegration into society. Admittedly, this was not without some risk to her, but it was the only way I could see Sienna avoiding being confined to a hospital environment for the rest of her life. I tried different cocktails of meds with her over the years, and the current combination she's taking has proven to be the most. Her office door opened, breaking her concentration, and she didn't look away from her screen as she spoke. "I'm sorry, but I'm busy now. Could you please come back later?" "I'm afraid we can't. We're on a rather tight schedule. You know how it is. Places to go, people to kill." It took a moment for the speaker's words to register with Veda. She frowned and turned to look at the woman who'd said them. "If that's a joke, it's not." She trailed off when she saw the pair that had entered her office. She recognized them immediately, not only from her sessions with Sienna over the years, but also her research into the Miles County Clown massacre. Art the Clown and Victoria Hayes. "Come on," Victoria said, her single eye glowing yellow. "It's a little funny." Art bared his teeth in a savage grin, then shut the door and locked it. Oh, now that, guys, that we don't get that in the movie, do we? Is Jake still in the chat? Jake, can I get a corroboration here? Let me use a word from the text that we just read. I'm not sure if you're still in there, Jake. I know you edit videos all day. I totally get how it is. I don't think that's in the movie. I don't know that we ever really see Sienna's doctor in the movie. Not that I've only seen the movie once, but I don't remember that. Let's see here. Is it weird that I will kind of want Davey to read in the gay Southern accent? I'll read a sentence for you, Bo. Sienna's treatment was a struggle for both of us from the beginning. During all those years I worked with her, she never wavered from her version of the events. And while she did eventually stop referencing the paranormal aspects of her experience, I suspect she did so only to placate me. There you go, Bo. I want gay to just talk like that all. Now you're just calling me gay instead of Davey. Whatever. I'll put up with it because it's M, and I think it's a Freudian slip of the fingers on the keyboard. Yeah, right. You didn't mean to put gay. Bo has become a YouTube channel member. Thank you so much, Bo. I really do appreciate it, man. It was great sharing some time with you on Sam and Brendan's stream the other day. getting to talk about Christmas horror. And of course, you know, I watched you guys all day. So great work on that, and job well done for, you know, raising money for Sobriety Sisters. Let's see what you guys are saying. I'm listening to you writing a screenplay right now. No, the doctors, that's new. Okay. Yeah, gosh, speaking of a screenplay, I do need to work on my ideas. I've got a fun one. I got one for a comic that I want to make, and I want to take the comic and then turn that into maybe something from there. But here's a cool thing to know, Jake, and I don't know if you know this because I know you are a filmmaker, a budding filmmaker. Did you know that if you create either a written story or if you create a piece of media that's either a short story or a graphic novel or something like that, and you create that first, if the idea gets sold to a movie production company, you retain the rights. Whereas if you write a screenplay or you make a movie and somebody comes in and they want to purchase it and do something with it, they would be able to get the rights unless you basically bargain or, you know, deal with the rights in the contract agreement. But if you already have a comic book out or you've put out a short story, like if you wrote a full like Chicken Man story or something like that, and somebody was interested in doing something with it, you would still have the creator rights. You know, you would make that big money. You'd make that J.K. Rowling money, you know, or yeah, maybe not that, but you know what I mean? Yeah, the doctors knew. And then Jake, there was another thing. They talk about seeing Art the Clown. Sienna's father was drawing Art the Clown, and I didn't think that was in the movie. And then the more I thought about it, I was like, I think that's in the movie, at least a quick glimpse. I know that we see like some sort of door opening to like a demonic world, but I'm convinced that something was going on with Sienna's father, obviously, right? What's happening, Jamie? I got your the Sleepaway Camp movie that you'd sent me. Guys, Jamie accidentally bought herself an extra copy of Sleepaway Camp and sent it on over to me for an early Christmas present. I think I might be delirious from fever. I swear Davey sounded just like Lindsey Graham for a minute. Lindsey Graham does sound like a gay Southern man. It's true. That's probably that might be on the list of like things he doesn't want to sound like. That's got to be somewhere high on that list. Lo and behold. No, not me as a superhero comic. I'm really into George Romero style zombie stories. And I grew up in a place that is isolated, no roads in or out. So I was like, that would be cool to have a George Romero story in a place like Juneau that could have cut itself off during the initial outbreak. Of course, you'd have like local government trying to control things. There's a big native population in Juneau. So it'd be like maybe some people go back to like living on the land, but then eventually these zombies would start to find their way to this little isolated town, climbing through mountains, through the rivers, frostbitten, animal bites taken out of them, just the most gnarly ass zombies you've ever seen. And yeah, slow zombies. No, I'm not saying that. You do what you got to do. However, I just wanted to put that out there. If you've got an idea that you maybe haven't started doing something more grand with, that you'd be like, ooh, that's a good thing to know. You know, that's one of the reasons why, was it Robert Kirkman? Is that the guy that did Walking Dead? I mean, he made a buttload, but if he just had made that tried to make it as a movie from the get-go and just like sold an idea of a script or sold a script, he wouldn't have, you know, been able to retain either that control or, you know, have that much money. Essentially. Yeah, it is pretty cool. I like reading it too. I think Tim Waggoner paints a really good picture of everything here. And I need to rewatch it as well, Jake. We've been trying to rewatch it on the Discord, but it's like if Erica can't be there, there's like a handful of people. So Erica needs to be there. I want to be there. Trashbox Mandy. And there's probably a few others that it's like, if we watch that movie without them, it's, you know, the world might implode in itself, or into itself. You know how it can be. Never stop stopping. There it is. Yeah, dude, you got to do what you got to do. The Chicken Man stuff is fun shit. So I encourage content creators to, if they've got ideas for movies and stories, to do their thing. I think it's one of the reasons why we start doing what we do is that we're passionate about this to begin with. And most times people that are that passionate to start a YouTube channel will probably have aspirations to do something beyond that. You know what I mean? All I will say is this: do something better than Shelby Oaks. Don't just do a compilation of ideas that you've liked from other movies, which ultimately is what Shelby Oaks felt like to me. It was like a mixtape of like somebody's favorite bands that he would hand to the band members because he's like, I want to start a band. Here you go. That's what Shelby Oaks felt like to me. Now, although it was technically well made, I don't feel like it brought anything new or different to the table. It was like a walking sim. It was like The Ring meets some sort of found footage, you know, The Strange Harvest meets fucking The Ring. Something like that. I'm not trashing it. I just thought it was like, yeah, I'll probably never watch it again. So maybe that is trashing it. I don't know. But I'm very happy for Stuckman that he was able to make his movie. It was a lot better than how his reviews have gotten. I will say that. It was a lot better than those. No gambling app ads in the movie. Okay, I'm going to have one more sip of water before I get canceled. And we're going to read chapter 10. And I'm going to do it in my regular voice. I'm sorry, everyone that wants to hear. You know. I try, you know, it's funny because I just said everything I said about Stuckman, and yeah, my idea is like Day of the Dead from '85 meets like Jaws meets just, you know, but yeah, whatever. I'll try not to talk about it too much because I don't want to, you know, talk about it so much that it never happens. We all got to start somewhere, right? I mean, I just think it's cool that you're doing it. I've never done it before. And I know it's, you know, just from speaking with people that make films, that it's very, very hard work. So I respect the hell out of you for doing it. Yeah, Em, I'm sorry. I'm sorry that we spoiled that for you. I think Chicken Man is real. Yeah. Em, I need to know. DM me. I need to know your idea. I'm not going to steal it. No, I'm not going to steal it. I'm just curious. Okay, guys, here we go. Are you ready for chapter 10? Here we go, chapter 10. Veda was surprised by her reaction to her visitors. As a highly trained and experienced professional in the field of psychiatry, she would have immediately assumed that she was being confronted by two extremely disturbed individuals who had, for reasons yet unknown, disguised themselves as Art and Victoria. But she didn't. The moment she saw them, she knew they were exactly who they appeared to be, and she knew that Sienna had been right all along. Art and Victoria weren't human. She didn't know what the hell they were, but she could feel the dark power emanating from them, and it provoked an intense fear response in her. She trembled, her heart raced, and beads of sweat erupted on her forehead. She knew her body was pumping massive amounts of adrenaline into her system, preparing itself for fight or flight, but she didn't do either. She sat frozen, unable to take her gaze off the two horrors confronting her. But when she spoke, her years of experience took over, and her voice was calm. How did you get past security? You can get in anywhere if you don't mind leaving a trail of bodies in your wake, Victoria said. And we definitely don't mind. Veda noted the blood splatter on the clown's clothing as well as the crimson stains on his fingerless gloves. Art laughed silently and nodded. Then his eyes grew cold, and he drew a finger across his throat in an unmistakable gesture. A plastic garbage sack dangled from his left hand, and Veda guessed he carried the tools of his trade in it. Efficient, she thought. No need to waste time looking around for a weapon when you brought an assortment of your own to the party. I suppose you've come to kill me, Veda said, and nothing I can say or do will stop you. Art's eyes widened, and his mouth formed an O of surprise. He put his hand to his chest as though he'd been deeply offended by her words. The glow in Victoria's eye faded. It's not just kill, kill, kill with us all the time. We're not that one-dimensional. We've come for an entirely different reason. Victoria's skin, hair, and clothes were slick with a black substance that Veda didn't recognize, but which smelled like a combination of filth-ridden soil and decaying flesh. The stench was so overpowering that Veda thought she might throw up. No, she thought, I will not display such weakness in front of them. It was close, but her nausea subsided, although it didn't leave her completely. It wasn't much of a victory, but she'd take it. Victoria nodded to Art, and he lifted his garbage bag and dropped it on Veda's desk. It landed with a heavy metallic thud, and he reached inside and withdrew a coil of rope. Grinning, he stepped behind Veda and began tying her to the chair. She didn't resist. What would be the point? If she were to survive this, it wouldn't be through brute strength. She was totally outmatched in that department. She would have to rely on the only weapon she had, her mind. When Art was finished, Veda was bound to the chair so tightly she could barely breathe. She told herself not to panic. If she let anxiety get to her, she'd be feeling like she couldn't get any air into her lungs and she'd hyperventilate. Fear was as much her enemy in this situation as Art and Victoria. Victoria came around to the side of her desk and sat on the edge, her butt smearing black filth on the surface. My silent friend and I laid low the last several years, Victoria said, but I still had my ways of learning what was going on in the outside world. Veda watched in horrified revulsion as Victoria reached between her legs and penetrated herself. She rooted around inside for a moment as if searching for something, and when she withdrew her hand, she held a large rat covered in dark clots of blood. She placed it on her shoulder, and the wet rodent fixed its small black eyes on Veda. This is Pest. He and his friends roamed Miles County, serving as my eyes and ears. They're the ones who found out which funny farm Sienna had been consigned to, and once they came here, it's a lovely facility, by the way, it didn't take them long to discover you were her primary doctor. Now that it's time for Art and me to step into the spotlight again, we need a little information that only you can supply. Victoria paused to lick the blood from her fingers, and Veda's stomach lurched. Victoria then leaned forward, and her eye glowed yellow once more. Over the years, you've gotten to know Sienna more intimately than anyone else. You know her strengths and, far more importantly for us, her weaknesses. I won't give you any information you can use against her. I don't care what you do to me. I won't talk. Veda smiled. Doctor-patient confidentiality, you know. It was difficult to tell given Victoria's mutilated features, but Veda thought the woman sneered. I don't need you to talk. She looked at Art. He stepped back into his bag of tricks, reached in, and this time pulled out a rusty hacksaw. He held it to his face and kissed the blade as if greeting a beloved friend. Veda couldn't take her eyes off the saw, and when she spoke, her voice was no longer quite so calm. What are you going to do with that? You know how doctors always lie and say procedure won't hurt when really it's going to be painful as hell? Victoria's mouth twisted into a grimace, her version of a smile. Well, dear, this isn't going to hurt a bit. Art, his mouth formed into a half grin, half snarl, stepped behind Veda, put one hand on the top of her head, and then brought the hacksaw around and pressed the blade into her forehead. Veda closed her eyes. She was an atheist, but right then she wished she had someone, anyone, to pray to. Art went to work. He began moving the hacksaw back and forth, cutting through Veda's skin and into the bone beneath. She told herself not to scream, not to allow Art and Victoria to luxuriate in her agony and feed on it. But she screamed anyways, loud and high, and she continued screaming as Art cut all the way around her head. Blood streamed down her face, over both ears, down the back of her neck. Art placed the hacksaw, its blade clogged with blood, skin, and hair, onto the desk. Then he gripped the top of her head with his hands and pulled. She heard a wet sucking sound, and a second later, Art tossed the top of her skull onto the table next to the hacksaw. Her scalp was still attached, and strands of her black hair covered the saw. After scurrying down her arm onto the table, Victoria's rat ran to the detached part of Victoria's skull and began nibbling at the ragged seam of flesh where Art had cut. Pest is eating what used to be part of me, she thought. She realized Art had removed the top of her skull to expose her brain. I don't need you to talk, Victoria had said. Veda had a terrible feeling that she knew what was coming next. Art traded places with Victoria, and an instant later, Veda heard a sound like fingers sinking into raw hamburger, accompanied by intense pressure in her head. The human brain had no pain receptors, so while whatever Victoria was doing didn't hurt her, it felt damn uncomfortable. Far worse than any of these sensations was the knowledge that Victoria's fingers were literally stirring around in her brain, doing incalculable damage to everything she held most precious about herself. Her knowledge, her training, her very identity. I can hear your thoughts, Victoria said. Stop being such a baby. Once I find the information I need, I'll withdraw, and while I admit your brain will be worse for the wear, it'll remain intact. More or less. Now hush and let Mama work. Veda looked straight ahead as Victoria rapidly sifted through her memories. Let's see what we have here. Survival guilt. Oh, that has definite possibilities. Jonathan doesn't believe in us anymore? Interesting. Might be able to do something with that. Sienna's been plagued by hallucinations all these years. Poor thing. Veda's thoughts became increasingly scattered and nonsensical the longer Victoria violated her mind. Both Art and Pest were watching her, their eyes shining with a hunger so intense it was almost sexual. She wondered if she could get a journal article out of that, something like Of Rats and Clowns, an examination of the sublimated sexuality of sadism-centered cannibalism. She liked that. It had a zing to it. She was recalling the first time she tasted tea as a child when she heard that wet hamburger sound again, and the pressure in her head eased. Maybe, just maybe, she was going to survive this encounter after all. If so, she hoped surgeons would be able to put her skull back together. She'd feel ridiculous walking around the rest of her life with her brain exposed. Then again, maybe she could start wearing hats. Victoria patted her cheek, smearing blood and brains on her skin. Sorry, dear, but I'm afraid you lost a few more marbles during the procedure than I anticipated. But that's why they say medicine is an exact science, right? Victoria walked around the desk so that she stood in Veda's line of sight. She held out one of her hands and Pest scurried over it to begin licking gray matter from her fingers. You've given us everything we need to destroy Sienna in body, mind, and spirit, Victoria said. You have our thanks. Veda wasn't sure what the strange-looking woman was talking about, but she was glad she could be of help. That was her job, after all. She did feel bad for Sienna, though, whoever she was. Victoria turned to Art. Let's go. We need to get back home so we can... Art fell to his knees and interlaced his fingers as if he were pleading with Victoria. She sighed. I can never say no to you, can I? I suppose we can linger here a few more minutes, but make it fast. Save some for Pest, please. And maybe a bite or two for me. You know how much I like Indian food. She cackled as Art stepped behind Veda, placed his hands on the sides of her head, leaned over and sank his teeth into her brain with the ferocity of a starving dog. Veda slipped into a cold, vast darkness, but she wasn't alone there. Victoria's mad laughter kept her company. Victoria settled into the passenger seat of the Ironside Demolition Company van as Art started the engine and pulled away from Happy Valley Wellness Center. Not a lot of happiness left there now, she thought. Their new ride was more than appropriate for them. After all, she and Art were world-class experts when it came to all kinds of demolition. Art liked that the van was filled with equipment he could use to torment and dismantle his playthings. It was a win-win all around. Pest sat on her shoulder, and the rat squeaked softly into her ear. Oh yes, of course. She picked up the rat, placed it between her legs, and it crawled inside her, curled up, and went to sleep. She looked at Art. I'd say that went very well, wouldn't you? Art looked at her, the lower half of his face still slick with blood and brain matter. He licked his lips and grinned. Okay, that is chapter 10. There we go. How was that one, guys? I know. I'm not mistake-free. I am human. Sometimes my mouth gets ahead of my eyes and brain. But wow, totally a brand new... That whole chapter is nothing we saw in the movie. This is the cool thing about reading a novelization. I'm sure, I have no doubt with how much control, Damien still retains over this property and everything that he gets together with Tim, and maybe they, I'd be interested. I haven't read too much about like what that process is, but I'd be really interested to know what that kind of collaboration is like. Do they get together and Tim says, okay, what are some things that weren't in the movie that you want to put in there? Or does Tim come to Damien and say, hey, there's a couple of little gaps here, and if we want to make the book a little bit longer, maybe we can fill in, a gap here or there and, give a little more lore. Because I think one of the most fair criticisms, the most fair criticism of Terrifier and Damien Leone is the storytelling. I mean, it's like, it's not even really there in the first movie. The first movie is like character setup. And then there's payoff in the second movie because they do a good job of tying the first movie into the story. And then they do the same thing with Terrifier 3. They tie in the first movie and the second movie, and they make a little more sense of it all. And I've said this before on my channel, I don't need every single thing answered in Terrifier 4. I like some mystery, but there are some kind of big questions that I'd like to see answered in the 4th Terrifier installment. Not just to satiate me and my sense of wonderment, but also, you know, if you want to silence some of your critics, and maybe he doesn't care about that. I mean, he's been very successful doing what he does. So you can't listen to every critic, and you're not going to please anyone anyways, especially when it's your baby. You got to do what you want to do. But I do think it would behoove the, you know, all the characters and the franchise and the legacy of Terrifier to answer a couple of the bigger questions. And I doubt that Terrifier 4 is going to be the last we're going to see of these characters, but it might be the end of, you know, this story, or this, you know, big part of the story. But yeah, I'm curious to know what you guys think. Let me know in the chat. Let me know in the comments if you're watching after the fact. If you're watching the live stream after, thank you so very much. Live streams have a tendency to just totally die, especially when you're a small channel like this one. So the fact that you guys come in and watch the replay, it really does mean the world. It's very, very valuable to the channel, and it's just really cool that you enjoy the content that much, that even though I'm not some hotshot streamer, you know, that you come on by and check out these replays. So let me know in the comments, and yeah, all that good stuff. Let me see what you guys are saying here. We'll probably hang out for another 15 minutes or so if you guys want to. If not, like, totally cool. But if you have any questions or anything you want to get into until about half past the hour, then let's go ahead and get going on that. I love Indian food. Like, I can hear M saying that sentence. That's a good joke. I like that joke. I am not, I try not to be the pearl clutching type, so I can definitely appreciate a good joke at the expense of pretty much any group of people. As long as it's fun loving and it's not like truly mean spirited, I think everyone deserves to be made fun of. Everyone should be on the comedy chopping block, as it were, for sure. Dude, there are a couple times, Eli, it didn't happen this time, but it's happened on a couple of these streams where I make a couple mistakes in a row, and then it's like, oh my God, now I can't even like focus my eyes. And I don't know if it's the anxiety of the moment, like reading on a live stream. But yeah, there's been a couple times where I'm like, oh shit, am I gonna have a panic attack right here? Yeah, yesterday during the members only one, I think I was like, God damn it, dude, or something like that. Yeah, guys, usually when I shoot videos, I say really mean things to myself in between takes and during mess ups. Yeah, I'm not very nice to myself. It's one of the things I'm trying to sort out in therapy. What can you do? Well, I appreciate that, Bo. You know, and it's a lot different when you're just reading like silently to yourself. It's probably a lot more comfortable of an experience. But yeah, this is a good exercise. I don't read very much on it. Like, I don't read very many books. Like, I don't read a lot of novels or anything like that. They kind of make me sleepy. I have this book from Robert Kennedy Sr., the original Bobby Kennedy. It's this book called To Seek a Newer World. It's like a bunch of his essays. You know, he's been dead for almost 60 years. It's kind of crazy to think that. And I'd like, I don't really have favorite politicians. But to me, he's like one that I think was incredibly intelligent and a very kind person. So I love reading his essays and stuff. Like, that kind of stuff excites me, but like novels kind of put me to sleep. So this is a great way to do it. And I know some of you guys have been enjoying this, and some of you, I put out a poll there on one of the first read-alongs or story times here. And it sounds like some people want me to start like a channel where I read, which would be kind of wild, kind of a different direction to go in. Horror channel, and then have a channel where I read. And I could do horror novelizations and stuff like that, or I don't know. Maybe that's something we can explore. I also kind of want to do an ASMR channel, although I don't know if there's anyone out there that wants to listen to male ASMR. I'm not as pretty as a lady. I understand that. Thank you so much, Jamie. I appreciate you. Yeah, there's no way anyone could read without any mistakes, right? That's why I want to do this as a pre-recorded thing as well. Chop it together, maybe put some sort of visual thing so I don't have to be on camera. It's easier to just edit the audio than it is to edit to make the visual feel seamless or not jarring, especially with like something like a reading. So yeah, I'm considering doing that. I might not do that until next year though. So get the live one out of the way this year, and then because it probably take about 10 to 12 hours just to record, because it's an 8-hour read. So considering all the mistakes or rereads I'd have to do, and then you got to go through and edit and chop it up, you know. So we'll see. I am a hot shot streamer. It's not to denigrate the 2.2 thousand people. I love this community and I love this audience. I love not just the little corner of community that we call the Death Squad. Like, I love the greater horror YouTube community. I think it's one of the best groups out there. So many kind people, and our little corner is growing every day. So definitely not to denigrate or poo-poo what we've built over here. I just know that that would be wild. If I could read in front of 2.2 thousand people, I would do it. Fuck yeah, I'd do it. I'd do stand up in front of you guys. Let's go. Let's fucking go. Yeah, I'm very, very appreciative, and I feel humbled and flattered to have what we have. Gina says, I think Jake knows Damien Davey. If he does, ask him, try to help. If he does, ask him to try to help you get an interview. Just a thought. Oh, if he does, yeah. Well, that would be really cool. I mean, I'd love to, I would never reach out to somebody and be like, hey, can you do this for me? But having a chat with Damien would be very interesting. Although, I mean, the guy is very busy. He was on Michael Rosenbaum's podcast not too long ago, that Inside of You, which is a great podcast. If you don't listen, you guys should. So, yeah, I would say, I would definitely be interested in that conversation for sure. I don't know if he would, but I would. I'm enjoying the series you're doing. It's unique and no other YouTubers have tapped into it. Very cool, man. That's one of the ideas or one of the reasons why I was like, I should do this, because a couple things. I put a poll out there about the Terrifier movies to find out which one was your guys' favorite. And I was doing a whole bunch of polls on like, what's the best horror movie of the 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s? What's the best horror remake of this decade? What's the best horror movie of the 2010s? Like all of these different, polls. And I did one, what's the best Terrifier movie? And it got like 1.3 thousand votes. The other polls were like 300 to 400 max. And I was like, oh shit. A lot of people that subscribe over here really like Terrifier. And I'm not covering Terrifier. I've done a couple things here and there, but it's been like a year since I've done anything on Terrifier. So it made me realize like I got to put some Terrifier love out there into the world. So yeah, and it is a little bit different. Heck yeah. Well, there you go. M would listen to me do ASMR. My thumbs feel too big for this phone. Well, and the thing about the phone, M, is it auto corrects and then you go back and correct it and you think you've corrected it because you hit the right thing and it auto corrects it again. I have that happen all the time. When I'm in a live chat on my phone, it's a friggin' mess, you guys. Autocorrect is like, no, you want to say this word. Earlier, I had a premiere for my 28 Days Later Bone Temple Pilots video, which you guys should check out. It's on the channel. Cillian Murphy's back, even though I call him Cillian Murphy, because when I see a C at the beginning of a word like that, I see an S. I don't see a K. Even though I'm Irish by descent, I'm not used to saying Cillian, because to me it looks like Cillian, like cell phone, cellophane. Yeah, I guess those are both starting with the same 4 letters. But yeah, I was in the chat for the premiere of that video, and I put the word dong, because that's what Gina had put. She didn't know if she wanted to watch 28 Years Later because of the dong. And I was like, the dong is distracting, but it looks like they covered him up in the Bone Temple. And autocorrect changed it to song twice. Twice. Well, there you go. There you go. Maybe I should do it. Maybe those two could be, maybe it could just be an ASMR channel and I do book readings. And I just read in a very soft, calm voice. Something like that. Would that work? Or is that too creepy? Let me know, guys. I've tried recording myself reading The Secret Diary of Laura Palmer. In the end, I couldn't do it because of the disturbing nature of the content. Yeah, it's I mean, that's even like reading this. There's like, I don't know what's coming next. Like I've seen the movie. I didn't expect that we were going to get the description of her pulling the rat out of her snatch, though. I didn't see that one coming. And then putting him back in. That's like his hidey hole. Victoria's gross, guys. Don't be like that. Like, no judgment. Just, you know, keep live vermin out of your fleshy hidey holes, please. Oh, thank you so much, Steph. I appreciate it. And it's most of the time. You can't do it all the time. Yeah, I can't even do it all the time, to be honest. Thank you so much, Chester. You're too sweet. I'm a Yankle Doody Davey. Yankee doodle doodle da. Be creepy. A lot of women would appreciate that, I think. Not me, but sure. But some would, I'm sure. Creepy in my ASMR. I'm coming to get you. I'm at your window right now, looking in. Waiting for the right time. Picking my spots. Yeah, I can't do that. Jamie loves creepy, though. I wonder what my hands would feel like around your... I don't even want to say that because I don't want people to like... It just sounds terrible. I can't say it. Oh, I can't say it. No one really wants to be choked, but every now and then someone, you know, some people are like, yeah, hand on throat. Sounds good. Okay, now we're way off topic, and I'm sure I'm losing you guys and gals. Well, maybe the gal audience is increasing now. Ooh, hands on throat? Who's he talking about? Is he talking about me? I'd be like Ghostface in the first Scream, yeah. What does he say? You hang up that phone and I'll gut you like a fish. Something like that. There's another time when Ghostface is like, I won't stop until I feel the knife scrape bone or whatever. Something like that. I can't remember all the phrasing. Any crap, guys. What do you... Yeah, dude. I don't think I need to tell you, and this is just a generalization. Bitches be crazy, you know what I mean? Oh, I want to know who I'm looking at. Yeah, that is some creepy stuff. Yeah. All I got to say is say what you mean, because I do see these crazy videos on the internet that, like, you know, where women are like, I told this guy to like leave me alone and not get a hold of me, and he hasn't texted me for 2 days. Or like, you know, guys, when a woman says like, don't talk to me and leave me alone, that's the last thing you should do. And it's like, well, you know, you could get arrested or taken to court if you don't listen, and they are serious. So like, if somebody tells me to leave them alone, I'm going to leave them alone. Like, I've already, you know, I was in a relationship where somebody made stuff up about me to get me in a courtroom, and I had to defend myself, and luckily won that appeal. So it is not appealing to me to try to like chase somebody. You know what I mean? Like, no. Like, when it comes to whether or not you want to be pursued, at least that, you don't need any mystique. Just, you know, if you don't want to be pursued, be truthful. If you do want to be pursued, be truthful. And then you guys can figure out the other rules of the game from there. Oh, what am I even talking about? People are going to tune into this on the replay and be like, dude, I got to unsubscribe to Davey. This guy's fucking unhinged, bro. But yeah. Bitches be cray. I'm going to make a short that's just me saying that. Okay, guys, I'm going to dip out here. I think Darren's going to be starting in about 5 minutes. And I'm going to be back, though, tonight, 9 p.m. Eastern with Lito Velasco. We are going to be talking about A Nightmare on Elm Street. He is a massive Fred head. The guy has composed music and been involved with documentaries, and he's been involved on so many levels with the fandom part of the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. So he's a huge fan. He's, I think, just a little bit older than me. So I also think there's a part of that, the people that had already kind of come of age or were coming of age when Freddy was really hitting his stride, like in the mid to late 80s. I think there's a different kind of, wistfulness when they look back on that franchise. But the more I watch these movies, guys, A Nightmare on Elm Street, Steph, we watched a couple of them last night. These movies have like a really, really tough time with the lore, and Freddy's powers change from movie to movie. The consistency is pretty much not there at all. And I have a really tough time. Not that these movies need to be taken seriously. I just think, like, comparatively, A Nightmare on Elm Street makes Friday the 13th and Halloween look so much more like, more fun and more grounded and easier to sink my teeth into, so to speak. Yeah, so we're going to be talking about that. We're going to see if some of his passion can rub off on me. I've got some notes written up about some of these movies. I've recently revisited them. I've heard what you guys have said through the poll that I put out there. The next video that you guys want from me is a ranking of the A Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. And then the video you want from me after that, a Scream franchise ranking. And I think I'm going to wait until the new Scream movie comes out, guys. And then that way we'll have all 7 to rank. And so I'm going to go about it that way. But I've heard the call. I know what you guys want from me. Thank you so much for supporting the Halloween franchise ranking. That video did very well. And of course, thank you to everybody that's been supporting the Scream frame by frame trailer breakdown went really well. The Jason universe stuff, you guys love when I bitch about the Jason universe. So the next time anything pops up with that, I'm going to just, cut the leash loose and just I'm just going to let myself fly off the handle on that as well. And if you haven't checked them out yet, I do a frame by frame slow motion breakdown of the Stranger Things season 5 part 2 trailer, which doesn't give away anything, guys. The trailer doesn't give anything away, and it's just a bunch of me speculating as to what we're seeing. And there's some really, there's some really good food for thought, I think, in that one. So check that one out if you haven't already. I got 28 years later news that I just dropped, and I've got a couple other a trailer reaction and an It Welcome to Derry news story that I'm going to be cutting together for you guys as well. So a whole bunch of stuff coming from the channel. I also have a couple ideas for shorts that'll be like a little funny, a little silly. We're going to have some fun over there. So plenty of stuff for me coming here. M says, I've started a rabbit hole. Women ignore me. Davey, ignore me. Ah, M wants to be chased. Yeah. What's happening, Wrestling God? How are you doing? Welcome on in. We are just wrapping up here, but you can always scrub on back and check it out. I read chapters 9 and 10 of the Terrifier 3 book. I just had to make sure that it was chapters 9 and 10. So scrub on back if you want to hear that, Wrestling God. Thank you so much for jumping on in. I'm going to head out and I'm going to jump on over to the Only Sans, Only Sans live stream to pop in and say what's up to Darren and his guest. But I will see you guys later on this evening. Thank you so much to all the, everyone that's a subscriber, everyone that jumped in on this live stream. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss anything when I'm about to go live and then when I actually hit that live button. And a huge thank you to the Patreon members and all of the great YouTube channel members as well. And of course, Death Squad mods. You guys keep it on lock in here. And I really appreciate you sharing the links, making sure everything other than me is nice and clean in the chat. So really do appreciate every single one of you. I love you guys, and I will see you here in about 5.5 hours if you're still awake. So until next time, I've been and will continue being Davey Deathray. Take care.